Welcome to another exciting episode of Cambrian Explosion. I'm joined by my co-hosts Yawar and Nabil.
We've got some exciting drama coming up for you, I think, in this episode, with some help from Nabil, who will have some very controversial opinions, I think.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the debate that happened between Trump and Biden.
My takeaway, the big takeaway for me from that debate was that Biden will not be able to run for the elections. And the reason for that is after what happened at the debate, every time Biden is now going to have a little slip up, there are going to be voices within the Democratic Party that are going to be calling for him to resign, to give a chance to somebody else. And keep in mind, the people who are waiting in the wings might, on the surface, be, say, hey, we're okay with Biden running, which Gavin Newsom has already said that he's supporting Biden in his run. But in the background, there is always that hope. There's always that, hey, it's my turn. This is the chance that I'm gonna get this chance or no other chance, so I should go for it. And so after this performance, there is such division in the Democratic Party that it is to me a given that one gaffe too many, and he's going to have to step down. And to me, really, the question now becomes, I don't think Kamala Harris is the person. So who is the person who comes in and runs for president post Biden?
Yeah, and the other thing is that even if Biden performs perfectly up until November, it's fairly clear, I think, to everybody that there's no way is he going to beat Trump in November, even if everything goes perfectly from this point forward. So he's just not going to win against Trump because just Trump is too popular.
And that's one question I do have to ask, and this is one question I always ask. Why is Trump so popular?
I would say it's because he's a salesman. Like he's a regular person. He relates to all of the general American dream. And so people find his honesty refreshing, whether we agree or disagree with how he approaches it and what he says. He's still embodying what the average American is thinking and doing. So I think and that's what he really does well. However, I must say, on this channel, we talk a lot about immigrants. So
Yeah.
there are tons of immigrants coming into the US, coming into Canada. He doesn't embody those people. So the last election, our immigrants, our young youth came to the rescue in a way and said, we don't want Trump. He
Mm.
doesn't embody what we want. So that's how he wasn't elected last time. But now even those young people are probably going to question,
Mhm.
the immigrants are going to question, do we really want this person running this country?
So
Especially after Biden lost the Muslims over Palestine. And about Trump, right? Trump is a populist, right? That's how he's popular. He's playing the sentiments of the public against each other, right? He's uh, dividing and conquering. So it's kind of like he knows exactly how to fan the flames of tension of the public, right? So and he takes full advantage of that.
first on the immigrant issue, I think that it's interesting. There was a rally that Trump held in the Bronx, and this particular topic I've also talked about with some of other immigrants here in Canada as well. And the topic is legal versus illegal immigrants. I know
Mhm.
that Trump has had the Muslim ban put in effect, if you remember, on legal immigrants as well. So there is definitely that sense of him having a racist undertone in what he's doing, and I'm not denying that. But when you go to places like New York and you ask legal immigrants who are doing just okay if they would vote for Trump, they actually say they would. And the reason is because they find that, illegal immigrants come in and they take the jobs that they would be taking. So they find it, hey, this person should have gone through the process like I did, instead of being able to just walk in through the border. And so there's a lot of people, and you will find that reflected in the shift in the voter base, in how Hispanic vote and the black vote is being shifting slowly towards pro-Trump. Is this is one of the reasons is that immigration ends up becoming discussed as one thing, but there is a difference between legal and illegal immigration, and there is a divide over there as well. And this is true in Canada as well, by the way, that there is a difference between legal and illegal immigration. And when I talk here with, like I was talking yesterday with the security personnel in my building, and they completely agree. They are the ones who brought up this point to me actually. So
Yeah, there are. I was watching this news video the other day, and it estimates that there could be up to 500,000 illegal undocumented immigrants living in Canada right now,
yeah,
up to 500,000 undocumented immigrants. I'm sure you guys have heard the stories about how people are coming in, right? We can probably tackle that in another episode. There are some quite funny and interesting stories. One thing that I found interesting was that Trump said that he would actually make it so that people who finished a 4-year college degree would automatically be given a green card in the
mm,
US.
yeah,
And that was, I found, very interesting, because who are the people who are going to US and doing college degrees? It's mostly Asians and, South Asians and, not specifically mostly white people, right?
mm,
Yeah, but he's trying to probably win over their votes, right? Whether he's
Yeah.
going to actually do that once he gets elected is a different story.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I'll say something controversial here. The world has a lot of issues right now. Normally, we
Mhm.
have a lot of issues, but
Not
now,
not controversial at all.
yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, we have so many issues. We have two wars, two world wars going on right now.
Mhm.
Not
yeah,
one, two. We
Mhm.
have, and then on top of all of that, you have two candidates in an election. And you know what? But probably most people will say if they had a third choice, they'd probably go with that person. It's a very weird situation to be in where I honestly don't know what would happen if Trump was elected versus Biden. Like whether
Mhm.
what's the worst beast to
Mhm.
pick to choose for the election because you might end up suffering. And again, you don't see the effects of some of the decisions presidents make until many years after. You don't
Mhm.
know what Trump is actually going to put into place once he gets elected. And maybe it's something that you cannot overturn over 4 to 6 years.
Yeah, exactly. The things that he would do would be to roll back protections for example, environmental safeguards, safety standards. For example, public infrastructure, transit, automotive, supply chain components must be held to a certain safety standard. These kinds of standards will be pushed out the window, and then, over time, over the years, you would see an increased rate of fatalities from these kinds of crashes, preventable deaths, and things like that. It would be hard to directly pin it down to this exact thing, but then you would have to have a complex flow of causality to try to trace back what happened.
I will say one thing on this, that it's interesting you bring up that point, because the person who actually did do this and did roll back a lot of safety precautions was
Mm,
happened during Clinton's era through NAFTA
mm,
and all of that.
mm,
In fact,
mm,
if you go and look at what happened in East Palestine
mm,
just last year, and if you actually look at all the reporting that happened around uh, why safety standards have been pulled back and how all of that happened across the last 20 years. The safety standards in the US are atrocious right now for supply chains, and it all happened during the post in the mid 90s. The decline started all in the mid 90s. So just to say that,
But just to also say here that it's not completely black and white, because in some aspects they dropped the ball, but in other aspects they might have For example, the federal assault weapons ban in the US was
I don't disagree.
passed.
No. And this is where I was going to actually mention where Trump also did something similar. There is huge lands that are forestry lands that are
Mm-hmm.
public lands that basically Trump gave away to the corporations
Mm-hmm.
during his time period through
Mm-hmm.
deregulation of the EPA, for Environmental Protection Agency, and
It's basically what Doug Ford is trying to do right now, right? With
yeah,
the
very
wetlands
yeah, it's very similar to what Doug Ford is trying to do right now.
in Ontario.
I mean, I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying that that's part of the issue
Mm-hmm.
in the democratic system that is in the US. There is a lot of power play in politics, a lot of money at play in politics, and that applies to both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. That applies to both Trump and to Biden. And so both Trump and Biden are representative of some faces, some hidden faces, and they represent those interests. And so I think,
Follow the money, right?
yeah, follow the money. And I think that to me is the big takeaway from the debate is like who's talking what in terms of supporting, but also follow the money.
Yeah, well, actually, what I've sort of been realizing recently, and this is something we'll talk about in our future podcast, is that the US and Canada were always seen by immigrants as people, it's the Canadian dream, it's the dream to go to the United States. Yet it's actually becoming more and more difficult to live in these countries as immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
And to actually be able to afford basic groceries and just going out even for a very small vacation if you need to. A lot of people are actually moving from Canada to the United States for cheaper things like housing, things like that. However, that might change if Trump gets elected, if Biden gets elected. And this is something I do have to look up the exact number, but there are people who are looking at Canada and the US and choosing not to immigrate here anymore. And so it's one of those things where people are having that question mark,
We
where
should
Canada.
definitely do a few follow-up episodes about where people are nowadays setting their sights on places like
Yeah,
Dubai.
Yeah, what is the best
Yeah.
country to go to?
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
I will just end by saying I think this was really interesting conversation. I think if people want to hear more, let us know. I'm here
what are
drinking
we
some.
cheering? What are we cheering with? Cheers to the next episode. What are we cheering with? I've got properly made desi chai.
I've got orange juice, which Yawer is probably going to not like. But
Okay. I mean, okay. I won't go after you too much because I'm sure you control your diet very carefully, Mavish, already. So, on my end, I've got orange pico. So, instead of orange
or
juice.
orange theme. If you
Yeah.
guys did not get that joke, we do have a podcast on the how food in Canada can kill you like orange juice. So please stay in touch with that. Also, I'm a type 1 diabetic, so I do take very much care of the health and food and processed foods in Canada. So do look out for some of our podcasts on those topics because diabetes and health and us South Asian immigrants is a big topic that we will also cover in other podcasts. Stay tuned for better listens.
Fantastic. Thanks, everyone.